Hi, Becky. It's Christy again. Um, we're gonna give this another shot. I, yeah, I was actually couldn't sleep. I woke up really early this morning and was doing some meditating and kind of just came out of that. And actually, as I was responding to a message from another person I did a reading for, and I thought, oh, maybe now is the time. Now is the time to do this for Miss Becky. So I've been shuffling and kind of meditating on you and your essence and your face and um, and just kind of asking what I should be addressing here with you. So had a couple cards fall out, and we're just gonna jump right in. Um, I am not reading anything in reverse today because honestly, these cards are difficult for me. I really love them, and at the same time, I have a hard time. Um, you got a lot of powerful cards falling out right here at the beginning. Um, at the same time, I have a difficult time reading them, and it's I think part of it is I just need more practice, more time with them. Another part is that my first deck, Tarot of the Old Path, just came so naturally to me. And I think my comparison of it is like, there are those people that you meet that you just instantly connect with, and being in relationship with them is easy. They're I don't think it's that they're similar to you necessarily, because sometimes those are the harder relationships, but there's enough similarity there that you can connect and you just get one another. This deck is not like that. This deck is a more complicated relationship, and so we're just having a little bit harder time. Not It's funny because it's not that I don't love it. It's just complex. It is a very complex deck. There are a lot of layers to it. I will probably reference the guidebook a little bit. It's called Tarot of the Illuminati. This is the cover looks like this, only in color. And it's fascinating. Like every suit has its own even ethnicity, like its own people group that it chose to represent that suit. Um, so there's a lot of layers to it, and I may or may not dig into them. I'm gonna see how this feels. Um, but that's part of why I'm not gonna read reverses today. I'm just gonna trust that if there's a message that a reverse needs to tell you, it's gonna come up anyway, and I'm not gonna worry about it. So, you got a lot going on. You probably are like, yeah, duh, that's why I need a reading. Um, there's a lot of power cards here. So, I'm going to show you the spread here. I like to do kind of the traditional Celtic cross spread. Do this the best that we can. Just give you a little snapshot of what we're working with. Of course, I'm going to go into the cards with more detail and to kind of explain how they play with one another. But all that story about the deck to explain that it takes me a little bit to warm up to this one. And at the same time, the messages that it gives are really powerful. So we'll just dive in with kind of your current state. So I'm amazed, honestly, you have a lot of major arcana cards. You have sweet swoop swoop. You have royalty cards. Yeah, you've got some interesting stuff going on here. So a lot of wands, wands and swords. And so we'll explore that a little bit too. All right, so this is where you are currently, the Star, Major Arcana card, number 17. And I love the chick in this. So major Arcana cards, we're not getting. This isn't necessarily a woman, but it is a feminine figure. And what I love about it is, like, her body is very strong and muscular. Like, it's as a masculine feminine figure, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost like a balance of the two energies, actually. And with the Star card, usually we find that she's got one foot on the ground, one foot on in the water. So there's this balance of so land signifies kind of like logical thinking, right? Very grounded thinking. And the water symbolizes emotional thinking. And so this is a really good place to find yourself. Honestly, it's a very balanced place. It's a very harmonic place. And it looks like it's maybe even a place of refuge from where you're coming from, which this is the near past, the Emperor. Very heavy masculine energy here. And then this is where you're going, the Prince of Wands. And so there's, the clouds in the sky, and there's a bit of this is a battle-ready prince. There's something on the horizon. He's charging after it. And I get the feeling that there's a really unique relationship between the horse and rider here. Like the rider trusts his horse, and yet it takes a lot of energy to stay on. So the method that you're approaching this battle with, it may seem like it's a interesting duality because you trust it, and yet it's a lot of work to stick with it. It takes a lot of, you think about what it takes to stay on a horse when it's bucking up like that. Your legs are clenched. You're really holding tight to the rein. He somehow has a scepter in his hand, even though he's holding on to the horse. So this is an incredible warrior here. Okay, this is what's coming up. There's a sense of battle coming up. And what I'm getting right for you now is that it's resting, but it's filling your well. And so re-energizing is, I think, the key word. And it's slow. It's like slowly filling a vase with water. You may not even notice that it's happening, but it's happening. You're slowly filling your well back up so you can re-enter the battle. So, and then the card overlaying these three. And so this is in the where it's, crossing over, it's leading from the Emperor over your current state in the Star to the Prince of Wands. So that, generally speaking, this card serves as an obstacle or a bridge. And I think that for you, it's a little bit of both. So I'm going to put this back up here again because there are a lot of elements in this. There's a sense of her being kind of tangled up in the world. So there's a temptation to take on the world right now when you are supposed to be in a place of rejuvenation and rest. Um, but there's also, she's kind of turning her body to this angelic figure up here. And I'm getting the sense that there's also an invitation um, to accept someone or something pouring into you. Um, and that can be this can be an obstacle in that you can be taking on too much of the world's problems, but it can also be a bridge in that you can be accepting of someone or something outside of you that wants to pour into you. So that as that water is filling up, that can be coming from an outside source. It doesn't necessarily have to be just you in isolation. You can open up to, again, now this is going to take some discerning because it's that bridge obstacle tension where you may open up to something and come to find out it's actually draining your resources. So you really want to ask yourself, ask your heart, is this something I can take on right now? Or is this someone who wants to kind of take me on? And see what happens. Your gut's going to tell you, your heart's going to know. When you get that sense like, whoa, no, just, oh, that person exhausts me, please don't. Heed that, okay? Really listen to that because you're looking to kind of sort through you're looking to kind of sort the wheat from the chaff here. So, and that's an old, really biblical reference, but also farming and agricultural reference where they would sort the wheat from, they'd sort the parts that basically were edible and ready to process from the parts, the extraneous parts that were not serving anyone. So I would encourage you to do that. Really be protective, self-protective of this space that you're in because it's important and it's necessary for the things that are coming up. So the cards below and above, this is the Four of Swords below and the Ace of Cups above. And it's interesting that they are in those positions because I'm getting this really curious sense of death and rebirth. And so don't be surprised if those energies are also playing into this time period, this phase. I want to look up the Four of Swords here. The Ace of Cups is very, there's a lot of symbolism here. You've got kind of the dove above the water flowing out of the cup. And then these lotuses in the bottom. And lotuses are really fascinating, lotus flowers. I would encourage you to look those up, read more about those because those could be really symbolic of the season that you're in. They grow in the mud, and the flowers they emerge like at the very end, and so there's this like really beautiful thing growing in mud, and then it blooms. And yeah, so if things feel muddy, if you feel like you're stuck or you're weighed down in some way, keep your chin up because something's about to bloom and it's going to be really beautiful. All right, Four of Swords, that's what I'm looking at here. So the swords correlate with air. And the first thing this is air is the element of our breath. And this guy is not breathing in this picture, so I'm going to be curious to see what Four of Swords is. They're very cryptic in their explanations here. So, the Oracle of the Fertile Mind. Not helpful. If that resonates with you, hang on to it. Take it with you. But what I'm getting, honestly, is a sense of death, like death and rebirth, but also then renewal. And it's important to remember that death is a part of the life cycle, and just as much as birth is. We get really excited about birth and rebirth. We love that feeling, those terms. There's this sense of new beginnings. But endings are just as important, and deaths are just as important. And sometimes it's just a reminder to grieve, that to give gratitude that this something existed in your life, even if it no longer serves you, even if it's no longer relevant, even if it's no longer in your life, it brought something to you, and it's important to grieve that. I've had two friends going through some really interesting death and rebirth processes, and they've both expressed being surprised at feeling grief, and 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 I said, no, I mean, you should feel grief. That was a part of you. That was who you were. It served you up until this point in your life. So this is, I think, a reminder, just as much as, the blossom of that flower coming out of the mud is a reminder to celebrate the new life. There is also a reminder to grieve. And we've even got, this chick in the stained glass she's holding her heart. She's got kind of that forlorn, downcast look. And so it's okay. It's okay. Grief is all a part of the process. I need a drink of water. Think on that for a minute. Okay, there was another thing that swords was connected with in this deck. Okay. Sorry, some things are coming to me that will come up in a minute here. Oh, what was that? Thank you for your patience. Sometimes it takes a minute for the picture to start to clarify. Okay, here it is. The words. Okay, wands. Okay, and these words. So moving into this next phase, we talked about the battle coming up. Um, there are some interesting forces at play. So Queen of Wands, and she's associated with fire. And then the Queen of Swords, who's associated more with ice. So there's kind of this passion, and yet, uh, so you think about fire, fire is engulfing. And a lot of times that's what our passion is. And there's a sense too that like fire knows no bounds, right? Like that's why forest fires and house fires and things like that are so hard to contain, um, because they have a kind of this like swooping motion to them, very fluid. And yet ice is very rigid. It is very conformed. It has clear edges. It has clear boundaries. It's easy to know where ice ends and other things begin. Even as it's melting, ice, even in water, it still has that clear edge to it. And so there's this really interesting dichotomy of passion and that kind of like having its way, and at the same time having really clear boundaries. Um, this is an intense season of growth for you because this is a next level maturity kind of a struggle where you're learning the complexities of being vulnerable and sharing and yet protecting yourself, your dreams, your visions, your passions. And so it would be interesting to talk to people who will know you in this next season because it's likely they're going to get one of two very different impressions of you. One, the one group may feel like, wow, what an amazing, passionately driven person. She's so open. She's so willing to share her story. And her story moved me and it was inspirational, and they're really going to hold you in high esteem. And then there's going to be this other group who think you're the ice queen. Like, wow, okay. They're going to be offended. And here's the difference. Those that can those that have the privilege of seeing your passion and vulnerability have proven to you that they're safe. And you may not even cognizantly be aware of this. This just may be you integrating some of the lessons you've been learning about vulnerability and about setting boundaries and about the healthy dynamics, the healthy differences between those two. Um, this may come out of the discerning of this world card that I talked about just a little bit ago, where you have to practice discerning between the people who will fill you up and the people who drain you. So, yeah, I get the sense that this is an integration of your lessons, okay? This is and it, and it's manifesting in how you relate to others in your life. It's, I think a lot of this is a reminder that, that means it's working. Okay, when you start to encounter the people who admire your tenacity and vulnerability, stick close to them. When you encounter the people who think you're being a rigid bitch, keep distancing yourself from them. Okay, so it's more affirmation. Like your discerning is serving you well. That's funny because in between those cards we have the Tower, 16 in the Major Arcana. Generally a warning card. But it can also be a reminder that not all of our fears are relevant and not all of them serve us well. And so as you're kind of caught up in what people may be saying about you, release the fears, identify them first. And this is a really good place to ask yourself, maybe in meditation or even just, before going to bed or in those first moments of waking up, when I feel like the psychic veil is a little thinner and we've been still or we are stilling ourselves. And so our inner ear is much more capable of hearing that little voice, that divine voice inside of us. Ask yourself, what part of me is afraid? What is afraid and what are they afraid of? And explore that. Okay, give that some space because those fears are playing into a bit of the feedback that you're getting. And if you're afraid of getting feedback, then you're going to get it even more. Like if you're afraid of getting negative feedback, then you're going to get all negative feedback. It's the universe. It's almost like we seek what we want to have affirmed. If we believe something to be true, we want to go and find it and make sure that it is true. And I kind of, I feel like I find this a lot in people who choose religion, and I don't have a problem with that. So please don't misunderstand me. But I find that there is this sense of like they want to seek out, see this as their truth, and then they go and they seek things that will affirm that for them. So they'll go to church and that affirms it for them. They'll go to a Bible study that they feel like is true to them, and that affirms the truth that they're seeking. And so if your fear is saying, whoa, 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 we're being too vulnerable, then you'll seek negative feedback. Okay. And you'll do all this subconsciously, so you won't even know. That's why it's important to check in with your fears, with the parts of you that are afraid. You can ask them who they are inside of you. Perhaps they're an old wounded self that just needs some nurturing and love. I know I've found that with myself. Anytime that there have been times I actually have been working with my therapist in what we call the inner family, and these are the parts of you that are inside of you that they're your inner workings. They're this inner group of people that affect your behavior and affect your agenda, and they all have a motivation and they all have a reason that they're trying to serve you. Well, I have the destroyer, and in this process, we went through like what does this person look like? What do they wear? You know, in other words, how do they express themselves through their apparel? Who do they hang out with? Where do they go for dinner? What do they like to do for fun? How were they serving me? Okay, we went through all these questions. So the destroyer dresses all in black. She's got big black eye makeup. You can't even see her eyes anymore. Her hair is black and wild, and she doesn't really have any friends, and she doesn't go out for fun. In fact, the world is scary to her, and the world is destructive. And so when I picture the destroyer, I picture myself with something good, reaching for something good or holding something good in my hand, and she just comes and smacks it. Like, nope, the world is bad. The world is scary. The world is evil. Smacks it out of my hands. And so if I don't pay attention to her, to the destroyer, I can easily self-sabotage, and I have done that in the past. Now, I am slowly working my way out of that kind of a life, but it's just a reminder that we have these parts of us. Now, the destroyer is an immature part of myself that it comes from childhood. The agenda was protection. The world is unsafe. I must protect you. We can't discern what's good or bad, so we reject everything. And so, sorry, phone's blowing up. I think the Tower is more of a warning card in the sense that check in with your fears, ask them what they need, give them what they need, and that will help navigate this space. The Nine of Pentacles is your conclusion card, and I love this card because she's holding a bird of prey. It looks like a falcon or a hawk, and it reminds me of this movie. It's coming up, so I'm going to recommend it. It's called The Eagle Huntress. Amazing story of this woman, this girl actually, in an indigenous population, and it's in somewhere in Southeast Asia. I forget where exactly, but she is, I think, 12. A big thing in their community is to be an eagle hunter. And it's all male, and what they have to do is they have to climb up into the Rocky Mountains and capture a baby eagle. And this is really nerve-wracking because you're up on a ledge where the eagles' nests are, which are usually like on these rocky outcrops. And you have to do this when the mom is away. These eagles are strong. I mean, if mom comes back, she will peck you to death. Like, she'll scratch out your eyes. I mean, she's fierce. She doesn't want her babies being taken, rightly so. But if you can successfully do that, then this animal will imprint on you, and you can train it. And what they'll do is, then they train them. They have these big competitions, and they use them for hunting. So it's not just cruelty to animals. Like, they'll send the animals out to help them hunt. Like, if they're hunting foxes, these eagles can kill a fox. It's incredible. They stay alive because they use eagles for hunting. So anyway, this young girl decides she wants to be an eagle huntress. It's very much looked down on in the community, but her dad stands by her. He takes her up. She has to go get her eagle herself. Sorry, I need more water. She has to go get her eagle herself, but he is there by her side every step of the way. And so maybe part of this story is that you're going to have a character like that. Either it's your masculine really stepping up and helping to serve you, or you have that manifest out into your physical world, a masculine figure, dad, brother, friend, partner. I'm not sure, but look for it. Anyway, I won't give you the whole story, but she is badass. She pursues her dream, and she stays focused on it. So that's partly what the Nine of Pentacles reminded me of. But also, there was something that was written in here, and I wanted to share that too. So in this deck, the Pentacles are an Oriental inspired culture with emphasis on fortune, prosperity, family, and duty. Um, and so there are a couple words that stuck out. One of them was achievement and completion. 9 is the number for achievement and completion. So whatever is happening here, the heart of it, it is it will complete a cycle for you. So this maturing that you're doing, this, I call it bumping up to the next level. You're going to bump up to the next level. That will come to fruition. This growth is not for nothing. Just like that lotus flower is eventually going to bloom and open up into a beautiful flower, this process will come into a circle of completion for you. And then the 9 of Pentacles specifically in this book, it says the fullness of independence in gain. So that's very loaded to me. The fullness of independence in gain. But again, to me, it's just that sense of completion. It's that idea that you will come into the fullness of this. You will, independence in gain. The image that I'm getting is like this strong warrior woman who can hold her own. And I think in the end of this, you're going to come out a stronger member of your family. You're going to come out stronger independence. You're going to come out with just a deeper sense of knowing who you really are. It's like you're peeling back a few layers in this process, and you're going to really come to the heart of it and confidently come to that. Like confidence is this whole situation is just exuding self-confidence. And so if you felt that that's been lacking, just trust that it's on its way. That's our time. A little over time, but that's okay because you've waited so long. Yeah, I'm getting the sense that it's time. So if you have any questions or concerns, as always, please feel free to message me. And also keep in mind that I may turn you back to your personal spirit guides, higher power, etc. And also to your own intuition, because I think it's really time to begin trusting that. Your higher self uses your intuition to guide you. If you've never heard the term higher self, it's kind of this idea that it's like our soul self that is detached from worldly entrapments, ego, desire, etc. It's really the thing looking out for us. It's kind of the eye in the sky. It sees what's ahead. It's guiding us toward our future, and it's pure. So whenever we talk about higher selves, it's this sense that it's the pure nature of you, like who you were before you came into this humanly realm, who you were before any of your past lives or your future lives, who you continue to be. And so your higher self is guiding you toward this growth. I honestly forgot the train of thought I was on, but I think you know. So blessings to you. Oh, that's what I was saying is I'll redirect you to your higher self, so your higher self can really speak meaning. But your higher self is using your intuition. So trust your intuition. It is there for a reason. It's also very subtle for a reason. And I think that's because we are really meant to tune in, to take space to tune in and listen. All right. So on that note, have a wonderful day. I hope this finds you well, and I hope to hear from you soon.